This summer's riots have left people in our region feeling unsafe. What will you do to stop the same thing from happening again?
The first thing that we had to do was to get the disorder under control, and that's why we made sure we had the police in the right place, that we had prosecutors taking decisions and courts that are processing people, because it was very important to send the message that if you're rioting, if you're throwing things, if you're trying to set fire to buildings on a Saturday or a Sunday, by the end of the week you're likely to be starting a significant prison term. That is really important.
Do you think that the language used by politicians around migration contributed to the riots?
Well, I think politicians need to be really careful about the language that they use. I accept that, on issues like immigration, there are concerns across the country which need to be resolved, but I will never accept that that sort of disorder, that sort of violence, is a way of settling any of those issues.
Do you regret any of your own language? During the election, you faced some criticism for singling out Bangladeshis. You described immigration as sky high. A senior Labour source reportedly described Muslim councillors leaving the country as shaking off fleas.
What I said in relation to immigration is it's too high and needs to come down. And I stand by that. I think we should be able to have a debate about that. This has got nothing to do with disorder, and I think anybody who's conflating the two is making a huge mistake. Disorder is disorder.
But just Telegram chats that some of the rioters were using, and they were repeating politicians' slogans in those Telegram chats where they were inciting further violence.
I'm not going to give excuses to rioters who took it upon themselves to go out and throw stuff at the police, to attack NHS staff, to try to set fire to hotels with asylum seekers. I do think that immigration has gone too high, and I think that's partly because we've got a skills problem,
now,
and we need to address that, and that is a discussion we should be able to have.
Whose garage was set alight in Hull. He said he no longer feels safe here because he's different and people still don't like foreigners. Just briefly, what would your message be to him?
We will do everything we can to make him or anybody in the same situation feel safe. That is why we took such decisive action, because I knew that we had to have in our mind's eye people who felt unsafe because of the disorder. I was determined that we would act swiftly, we would act robustly and get the disorder under control, and that's what we did.
The riots did expose a deeply divided society, and if we look at our mainstream politics too, in the election your party won seats like Leeds East and Barnsley North and Great Grimsby and Cleethorpes, but Reform came second in those and in many other seats across the country. Does that concern you?
Let me take on this question of a deeply divided country, because what I saw in the disorder was a minority of far-right thugs causing disorder. But what I also saw was really decent, reasonable, tolerant people coming out and, for example, cleaning up, rebuilding. They're the true face of Britain. I don't accept this characterisation that we're deeply divided. I do say there are thugs that need to be dealt with, but actually the real face of our communities did come out the next day. Nobody asked them to sweep up, to clean up.
Do you believe that right-wing sentiment is on the rise?
I am worried about right-wing sentiment, and we see it not just in this country but in other countries. I think we have to meet that, and the way to meet that, in my view, is to have a government of service which delivers on its promises. And I promised that we would improve living standards so people feel better off. I promised that we would. I promised we would just hear me out. That we would improve the NHS and get it back on its feet. I promised we'd lower energy bills, make our communities safe, and ensure young people could go as far as their talents would take them. So delivery is the way to deal with the far right.
I'm aware that we don't have much time. One of your own MPs, Rachel Maskell, has said she's worried that pensioners will die because of cuts to the winter fuel pension. Are you scared that elderly people will lose their lives on your watch?
It's very important that all pensioners who are entitled to pension credit go on to pension credit. So I take this opportunity to encourage any pensioners watching to go on to pension credit if they're entitled to it.
The deadline to do that by phone is tomorrow. Do you think there's been enough time?
We need as many people to get on to pension credit as possible. But equally, we need to stabilise the economy. We're taking tough decisions. But the purpose of that is to make sure we can make good on our commitment to the triple lock,
but your
which means
tough
for every
is a political choice.
Just hear me
for
out.
Pensioners like Mavis, who we met at a warm hub in our region, she said people like her would suffer, but posh people will be all right because they've got money. Do you accept that you can't really understand the struggles of a pensioner like Mavis?
Look, that's why we need to get people on pension credit. That's why we need to stabilise the economy. Many, many pensioners suffered really harshly in recent years because inflation went through the roof, because their energy bills went through the roof.
UK have said that there's not really enough time
just
now
hear me out.
for pensioners to get on pension credit.
Hear me out as to why we're doing this. We're doing this to stabilise the economy. That means under the triple lock, the state pension will go up next year by more than any withdrawal of winter fuel payment.
Prime Minister,
so pensioners
some of
will
our
have
viewers
more
will
money
be
in their
watching this
pocket.
at home and thinking, you're taking £300 from pensioners while wearing glasses that are worth £2,000. Is that fair?
I have in my mind's eye all those people across the country who elected this government in on a mandate for change, and I'm determined that we will deliver that change, and that's where I focus every day. That's what I've got the whole of government focused on. That means tough decisions. Of course it means tough decisions.
You criticised your predecessor Rishi Sunak for being out of touch, but things haven't changed, have they?
The purpose of it is to deliver the change that people... When I am in Yorkshire, people talk to me about high prices. They talk to me about their energy, families and businesses. I'm focused on what they need to be changed,